I suppose you all want to hire the best talent that is out there. Well, we're going to learn now from a tech giant, Jonno Southam, who's head of venture capital business development at Google Cloud, will take us on his journey. He's a 2-time founder with over 20 years of experience, both as an entrepreneur, but also as a senior technologist in high-growth enterprise technology companies. He also worked for Amazon for quite a while, so he's got recent experience out of 2 big tech giants. And he will share with us how we can scale in a startup culture, in a robust way, and a process to constantly raise the bar. Please welcome Jonno.
Great intro, thank you. Every organization has a culture, whether you like it or not. The question is whether your culture is intentional and purposeful. You need to create a culture as early as you can in your journey, and that's fit for purpose. Companies often use the term mission and purpose interchangeably. So let's be really clear about what we mean by purpose. It's the reason for which something is done or created, or which something exists. It's a person's sense of resolve or determination, to have one's intention or objective. Understanding why you do what you do and what purpose your business has in the market is super important to motivate and maintain the vision for your company. It also demonstrates to your customers that you understand their needs. A purpose-driven organization is also proven to be more effective and successful with their long-term goals. When all employees enforce those common goals across all aspects of their work, customers feel that their needs are addressed. You should have one purpose and act as a guiding light along the way, and that should drive you forever. Because if you ever complete or fulfill your purpose, there's not really any reason for you to exist at all. Why is this important? 2 studies from PwC and McKinsey have been written about building purposeful cultures. And whilst written very, very different times, one before COVID and one after, they still come up with very similar conclusions. PwC argues that purpose is a way of business and is core to decision-making, whereas McKinsey recently say that employees are looking for employers to meet this need or prepare to lose those employees to companies that provide that purpose. In that report, that very same report, literally 2/3 of US-based employees that were surveyed said that COVID-19 has caused them to reflect on their purpose in their work and in their life. And nearly half said they were reconsidering the kind of work they do on a day-to-day basis because of the pandemic. I think we heard Mike and Martin talking about that earlier. Millennials were 3 times more likely than others to really reevaluate their work. People with purpose at work tend to be more productive than people who are not. They are healthier, happier, and generally more likely to stay at the company for a long period of time. They seek transparency. They need to be trusted to work from everywhere. They need to work autonomously. And they require your company to have some kind of impact on the world. Nowadays, employers need to focus on the whole employee, the report says. So that's not just the life at work, but it's things like wellness, physical and mental health. In another survey by a global recruitment company, 56% of Gen Z and millennials would leave their jobs if it got in the way of their personal lives, or wouldn't even accept it in the first place if they had issues with things like social and environmental politics. Every organization has a culture, whether you like it or not. Purposeful and intentional cultures have three main components: mission statements, values, and the way that they're organized. Let's talk about mission statements. Big tech companies like Alphabet harness the power of purpose and that's really one of the reasons why they're successful. A fit-for-purpose organization is specific enough to provide a clear indication of why they exist. They facilitate alignment and inform strategy, but broad enough to allow them the scope to develop. Alphabet's purpose was never to create a search engine, but there are a myriad of ways in which we can fulfill this purpose. Alphabet's purpose is to organize the world's information, as we all know, and make it universally accessible. But it's really not achievable, and that's purposeful. It's intentional, because there are always going to be more ways that more information is going to be released on a day-to-day basis. This can and will drive Alphabet's mission and purpose forever. Values provide a clear indication of how things are done around here and serve to shape the culture an organization needs to win at fulfilling its purpose, as well as communicating to talent out there the kind of behavior that you're expecting employees to behave like. You want to attract the people that fit into your culture and repel those that don't. Values that stand out about the culture at Alphabet are shown in this context. We are user-focused, customer. We don't need to be at your desk to find an answer. We have remote, mobile, and hybrid workforce. And you don't need to be serious to wear. You don't need to wear a suit to be serious. An intentional and fit-for-purpose culture can only be scaled with the right organization to support those values and missions. Behaviors must flow through the whole organization. It needs to be reinforced constantly by leadership all the way down to individual contributors. This work is never, ever done. It constantly needs to be used to shape strategy, prioritize the work, make decisions, and are used generally as a shared vocabulary on a day-to-day basis. They are determinants of how they hire, measure performance, reward, and who they let go. But why is this so important? Why is it important to organize all these elements? Two examples. Understanding and articulated who you are, why you exist, and what value you bring can be a powerful tool in evaluating the people you want to hire. Creating an intentional and fit-for-purpose culture creates gravity towards your company. So once you've built your mission and your values and document what kind of company you want to build, go out and talk about it a lot. If you're a founder, talk about how great it is to work for your company, but what it's like to work for your company, because that will create gravity to your business. Get your brand and message out there. Qualify those out that won't fit for those that will. You still need to minimize the risk of what we call mishires, right, in your organization. Anyone who has experience, hands up in the audience, who's hired the wrong person in their organization? Quite a lot of people, right. It's very costly and it's very disruptive. In the US, a study was done by the Department of Labor, and they say that 30% of the salary of that person who was hired or mishired is generally the cost of that person. I think it's more than that, personally, and certainly in my experience. For a startup, if it's a 5 or 6 figure sum, that's actually going to be that's going to hurt you, particularly if you're a really early stage company hiring the very first set of people. A recent survey by a global staffing firm was based on interviews with actually over 2,000 CFOs. The majority were most concerned, about 39%, about degraded staff morale. Second was all about productivity at 34%, and actually the cost of the hire was actually at 25%. So the cost of a mishire is not just about the cost, although the costs are much higher, much broader than, or the implication of that mishire is much broader. Mishires force companies to obviously reassign financial resources to hiring a replacement and obviously getting rid of that person. Time-consuming process in many markets. They could cause like reputational harm for the company if they're public people. They waste time, and it can negatively impact the work environment. They can be disruptive, they can lower morale, and they can force indirectly those people who are high-performing out of the business. They can also hire people that are like-minded, just like themselves, and again, you end up going down a horrible path. But know that there is not one-size-fits-all culture. Know what you need and build a culture of hiring, performance management, and the strategy around it to support it. For example, big tech companies intentionally encourage a culture of innovation. That's consistent across most of the big tech companies, which means people that come on board are encouraged to innovate internally and build new things. But of course, not all organizational cultures are built purposefully for this. So some companies don't need their employees to be innovative or have that innovative mindset. So don't build a culture to reflect that. A great example of this is McDonald's. I know it's not a tech company, but still a great example. They don't need their restaurant workers to be innovative. They don't need them to have that innovative mindset. But what they do need them to do is customer-focused and passionate about the work they do. This is very intentional and fit for purpose. Big tech firms align with hiring with cultural values. So each of the big tech firms has a highly effective and scalable hiring mechanism, right? They do phone calls, they do interviews both in person and remotely. Some roles require strong writing skills, some roles require presentation skills, and those will all be relevant or reflective to the role that you're hiring for. At Alphabet, we measure 4 things: leadership and all associated traits around that. We hire for role-related knowledge, so that's experience. We hire for cognitive ability, intelligence, and we hire for googliness. Now, people ask me all the time, what does googliness actually mean? Well, actually, googliness is a set of traits, such as passion, positivity, uniqueness, respect, self-motivation, communication, out-of-the-box thinking, and kindness. And it's a purposeful mechanism to make sure that we hire the right people, but it's also used for managing performance during our review cycles. One important thing, though, which is paramount importance, certainly in the big tech firms, is the candidate experience. And this protects the brand and for future hires. It's really important that you give the candidate the best experience, even if the outcome is not what they intended. You never know when they're going to be, or if they're going to be a fit in the future, or who they're going to talk about your company to. Hiring decisions are really important and critical for scaling a purposeful business. So when you build your mission, your values, and the organization, you need to still make the right decisions about who you hire. And the big tech companies like Alphabet ask themselves, does the candidate solve big problems? Have they done in the past? Are they able to think big or think outside the box? Do they believe in are they passionate about what they do? Do they have energy when you interview them? Do they get you excited about hiring them? That's really important. But obviously, lastly, do they believe in your purpose and align with your values? Remember, every organization has a culture, whether you like it or not. The question is whether your culture is intentional and purposeful. You need to build a great culture that's fit for purpose and aligns with the kind of company you want to build. I'm Jonno Southam. Thank you.